The following programming is sponsored by Tom Toole III. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group.
Good afternoon, greater Philadelphia area. This is Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Stacy Mitchell. She's Sarah Timon. And we have Gabe behind the camera. And we all work with the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the number one RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we are streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Just Google Tom Toole Sales Group. And we are here to talk about the spring market. We've got a couple really interesting pieces of data we're going to share in our first couple segments and then talk about some insurance needs on the third one. So let's get into it. You guys ready? All right. So our good friend, David Childers from Keeping Current Matters, if he was on our show, I think about a year ago, something like that. He had I not only got to see him last week at Boomtown Unite, which was very insightful, but he comes out each month with information for realtors to share with their clients, getting them informed about the market. And I find this is one of the biggest gaps in the business. Most realtors can't explain the economy, they can't explain what's going on, and it doesn't inspire confidence with consumers. So what I wanted to share with everyone today are 5 slides. Like real estate agents, they should have them on their phone, ready on demand for a showing. Have you guys ever done that, by the way? Like have like a slide of information that's there and just kind of show it to somebody? I haven't. This is new for me, but I like the idea.
No, I haven't either. And I like that with these slides, you could just have them on your phone and not rely on, Wi-Fi or like pulling up a whole, prepared slideshow deck to show somebody. Just being like, hey, because I think that having a visual there to support what you're saying and having data to support what's going on in the market really, gives some clarity and hits all different types of, personalities. Some people need to see stuff, some people need to hear something, but being able to kind of show that in a quick, easy fashion, I think goes a long way.
I agree. I think some people, they just, what they're going to do is they're not going to follow through on things. They're not going to understand it when they learn audibly. They have to see it. It has to be visual, and it gives you third-party validation, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about each one of these slides here in our first segment and then how that applies to our market and if we're going over it. So the first slide that David talked about was that there's more new listings than active listings, and they compared August 2021 all the way up until March. And I came prepared with our local data here today so we can give the real numbers. And what they're showing there is that March is the first month nationally. Now this is a little different locally. That's why I wanted to give our data. Nationally, that we saw more new listings come onto the market than the existing active listings that were kind of like sitting out there at come March 1st. So what do you think about the power of this? How would you communicate that to a client? Because this graph for someone without any context, I don't think makes a lot of sense. So how do you explain that? What do you think about these?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just speaks to how quickly properties are moving. Mm-hmm. That yes, this is great that we finally have some more inventory hitting the market that's outpacing, but it's also there's still absolutely urgency there because they will go quickly.
Yeah, it's very the market's moving so quickly in the sense that as soon as a new listing comes onto market, it gets under contract relatively quickly. If it's positioned properly in the market, if it's priced accordingly, and if it's even relatively in decent condition.
Right.
The homes that and I use that word, may sit a little longer, would be homes that possibly need full renovations or, are in a little bit less of good condition. But
Sure.
Other than that, the market moves so quickly with homes getting under contract very quickly.
Well, and how many times have you guys seen a buyer where they're like, oh, this is the first one, I'm not ready? And a lot of that's the fault of the agent because they're not telling their people, hey, here's what's going on, here's how things go, here's what's actually going on in the market, not what you heard. Because when you show this to people, I would find, like you said, Sarah, it's a lot more impactful seeing it versus we got insurance guru Kevin Hamill in the studio here. He just walked in. We're all waving at him. It's more impactful seeing it than actually just like hearing it from a realtor because they always assume, hey, Sarah and Stacy and Tom, all you guys want to do is sell me a house, and I don't really believe you.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. Sometimes when I'm giving stats or giving really important information, I see the buyers kind of look at me, and some of them, might glaze over a little bit or just look at me with that, nah, you're full of it, whatever look. But it's true and it's relevant and it's very, very important. And I love this idea to have these slides available, because then, like you said, Tom, it totally validates what I'm saying.
What I would go one step further is you talk about people's eyes glazing over, right? This happens a lot when it comes statistically into different things. And some people, like if you're an expressive personality type, you just care if you like the house, right?
Right.
You're an expressive. I mean, would you actually want to know the data, or you're like, I want the house? What would your...
So I think it's...
Before you got into real estate.
Yeah. No. I mean, mostly do I like the house, but having it backed up with actual info, especially as to like the urgency of jumping in or the importance of what your offer is going to look like, and that you probably get one shot at writing it. I think seeing those numbers would back up my excitement for a house.
Or that you have like 6 hours to get the offer in before it goes under contract by somebody else. Some people think I'll sleep on it, or can I let you know Monday kind of thing. No.
Right.
So, and for an expressive, I think this actually is not as helpful. An analytical person, 100%.
Right.
Yes.
Right? A driver, I'm clear this would help too, because they'd see this, they take one look at it and said, all right, what do we got to do? I want to get the house.
Right.
The amiable, I think it's kind of hit or miss, because it depends if they have any analytical to them. So I do see value in this. To give some perspective, here's what's happening in our market. So I pulled all the county statistics. So Chester County in March, this is the first time we've seen the market go this way since the fall. 720 new homes were listed, 594 went pending. So new listings are starting to outpace pending sales, but literally everything that's coming on the market is going under contract. So we're seeing very little there, but it's a good sign that there's a little more inventory. In Delaware County, 764 homes got listed, 625 went pending. So similar split. Montgomery County, bigger county, 1,187 homes listed, 1,027 pended. And in Philadelphia, 2,779 listed, 1,771 pended. So the numbers stack up here locally in the 4-county area based on this slide. So I do see some value in this. So this is one I'd put on my phone. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the next one then. So the next slide, single-family housing units completed in number of thousands year over year, and they have a line that says it's the 50-year average at the top. And hopefully on when we replay this, Gabe, we can get these slides actually posted on the YouTube channel. So it shows that this is the 14th straight year that's below the 50-year average of new homes built. So what's your takeaway from this slide? Is this something you'd find useful here?
Oh my gosh, this one resonated to me. I was like, wow, okay, this makes perfect sense. It puts everything in perspective from the early 2000s to now. What, why the inventory is so low, because there was no new construction for such a long period of time after the 2008 Great Recession. So this one really made a lot of sense to me. I think this one will help put things into perspective about the inventory when you're dealing with new buyers. And like, look, this is, just look at this chart and you'll understand why. It looks like it's creeping up a little bit in 2020, but it's still not enough to really make a dent in the situation.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is a great visual to show, because one of the most common things you hear is like, well, why isn't there any inventory? Or, well, I'm going to wait because soon there's going to be a lot more of like properties that hit the market. And this kind of shows that, this absolutely supports where a lot of these numbers come from. And we're going to be feeling the effects while it has, crept up here in more recent years. We're going to be feeling the effects of that dip for quite a few years to come.
Especially because the millennial market, the millennials coming to market, that's a whole very large group of people that are entering the housing market. So, you have the low new construction housing numbers, along with the increase in these buyers, this whole pool of buyers, the millennials. It just really puts strain on everything.
Well, and think about our market in particular. When was the last time you saw like a new home development that wasn't more than like 20 or 30 properties? Anywhere in like I think of places like Media, right? Media, they have these like smaller townhome developments, but they don't have big single family homes getting built. Right. We see some more out in like Downingtown in that area because it's a little more rural. There's more land to build on. Main Line is the same thing. Philadelphia, they're tearing stuff down. There's just not a lot of new construction because we're in an older market. And folks don't get that. Like anytime someone says, I want to buy new construction, I'm like, get ready to pay high taxes and pay a really high price for a home because new homes cost more than used homes. It's documented and proven. So is this something you would both use when you're out meeting with people?
100%.
Absolutely. And I think it also goes to show there's certainly a buyer pool there who want only, even if they're not saying I need it to be like brand new construction to me, I want something that's done within the last couple years because I don't want to have to worry about an older home. And this kind of goes to show, well, there's not going to be a ton that hits that was built in the last several years that you're going to be able to get into and have it, be 5 years old. It just, there isn't a lot of it there.
All right. So we're all in agreement. This is important to let people know. And you want to show them, hey, like there's just not, this inventory doesn't exist. So really, really valuable. This third one, this might be my favorite of all five, this third one here. So it's called Home Ownership, a Hedge Against Inflation. And it compares home price appreciation to the Consumer Price Index over decades. So if you don't know what the Consumer Price Index is, it basically shows it's a statistic that measures the average change over time in the prices paid by consumers for the market basket of consumer goods, like housing, food, that sort of stuff. So, and it shows that in the 70s, an inflation rate was 7.1%, home price appreciation was 9.9%. And then it was kind of like even in the 80s, it was 5.6% inflation, 5.5% home price appreciation. And again, that's the average. 90s, it dropped. And we know the 90s had some different economic times, 3% inflation, 4% home price appreciation. Then we get into 2020, and it was kind of fluctuating in like the 2.5 to 5 range until about 2020. And then they have a 1.4% inflation rate and a 9.2% home appreciation rate. And then in 2021, 6.8% inflation and 18% home price appreciation. So how would you use this? Is this something you're going to keep on your phone and show to people out in the field?
Yeah, this is another one that I absolutely love. And I'm starting to hear folks say, well, the interest rates are going up, so I'm going to wait till they drop. So this will come in handy because I can explain the inflation rate and to the home price appreciation value too. And I think that's really important for buyers to know that definitely it still is the right time to purchase because the interest rates are still low. Even if they're at 5.5%, they're still low. And to get into a home now because you're going to enjoy this appreciation value over the next couple of years. I think it's really important for them to understand that, and this is going to help tell that story.
Right, and I think it's a good visual to kind of back up that owning a home is a good investment, and that while we have had an incredible market over the past couple of years, and we have seen a competitive market, that when you secure that home, you've secured an investment for yourself and something that's going to continue to appreciate and something that's going to continue to provide for you and something that you can enjoy while it's doing its work for you.
Mm-hmm.
It also shows that owning a home is the best hedge for most people against inflation. That's what they call the slide. And the reason that's important is that there's been only one decade since the 1970s where home price appreciation was lower than the inflation rate. And the differential the past 3 years, I mean, you're talking about a delta of almost 8% in 2020 and of almost 12% in 2021. It's just short of 11. Everyone's worried about, okay, the prices of gas are going up. It's more like supply chain. People talk about this all the time. They're not talking about if you buy a home, you're actually gaining wealth exponentially in spite of the inflation rate. And the people that say, I don't want to overpay, well, you're actually over losing. Right. I don't know if that's a real term, but you're over losing by not owning a home because it's if you have the money to spend, they're going to spend it on other stuff. And it's not an asset that's accumulating. It's like the person that buys a car and says they don't want to buy a home. Well, it's the exact opposite of what you want to do. So this really, most people don't know about inflation. I mean, the average consumer you guys are dealing with, do they have any concept of inflation relative to home price appreciation?
No.
No.
All the more reason to show them this one. To me, this is probably the most important. I don't think folks get that. Even as rates rise, it still doesn't really matter because you're still getting inflation 6.8%. Rates are 5%. So you're beating inflation right now by owning a home.
Right. Mm-hmm. And even if there's so many great loan programs available, even if you don't have 20%, because I've heard people say they're waiting till they have 20%. Don't wait. Pay the PMI. You're going to pay PMI. It's going to be less that you're paying out in PMI than you're going to have your home appreciate over the next couple of years. So you're going to make more than you're going to be paying. That PMI is going to be peanuts compared to what you're going to be able to make in that value of your home. So don't wait.
Absolutely. And I would say, and this is like a great argument for talk to your lender and get actual numbers and actual facts rather than just kind of going off what you think or what you've heard. Talk to somebody who really knows and get an evaluation of your situation and get some real solid figures.
So get clear on inflation versus home price appreciation. That one, I think, it really gives some, and get financially informed. I think that's always been a message here no matter what you're doing. So we're 3 for 3 on these slides. So far, David has delivered. We got 2 more, and then we'll take a break. The fourth one, this one is also very important. Not my favorite, but important. It has a number, $96,342 at the top, and then it lists it as potential growth in household wealth over the next 5 years based solely on an increasing home equity if you purchased a $360,000 home in January 2022. And what it did was it showed not you paying down the debt, but expected appreciation over the next 5 years at the current rate. That's how much wealth you can build just by paying your mortgage on time. What do you think about this one?
I actually like this graphic because it has a really big number at the top over the next 5 years or else 6 years. And I think that resonates with people if they just have a real quick visual, and that's what this provides. It's obviously it's a sliding scale. It could go one way or the other, but it still gives you a ballpark of what potentially your investment in real estate can bring back to you in a short period of time at the rates that we have been experiencing over the last couple of years. So to me, I think this is a really good one to show people, and anybody can look at this chart and understand it.
Right. And I think it's also great that, their bump here from 2022 to 2023 is a bit more significant of an increase than the following years based off of the projections that they've given for how everything will appreciate, what interest rates are. And so it's taking all of that into account. And for people who are saying, listen, I'm going to wait till everything cools off. There's no way that this can sustain, all of the different things that we hear. Yes, that's true. Like in terms of everything can't sustain exactly the way that it is, but it's showing you that if you get into the pool here, you're going to be building wealth for yourself, and it's going to happen year over year, and you don't have to wait 30 years for to see this. Yeah, that's a nice big number there at the top. And and that's happening in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
It also, people, they think like, oh, I don't want to overpay. And this is here's how you're losing if you're waiting, because what happens is a lot of folks that think that they see that homes are selling quickly and all that sort of stuff. I get all that. I mean, we know that it's a challenging market for people to buy into a property right now. They don't get the benefits. There's tax benefits on top of this, right? There's the ability to build wealth, have an asset that appreciates just by you living there versus paying down someone else's debt, which is the other option. And what's happening right now is that with rates going up, it's forcing people to get off the fence, meaning they're either not going to buy at all, or they're going to realize they should have bought when we told them to last year on this show, or whenever it was, or maybe their family situation changed or their household situation changed. There's a lot of money at stake here. That's life-changing money for a lot of people. And that's what I don't think folks realize. Just by paying a mortgage and making the decision that I'm not going to go rent and I'm going to be responsible with my money, they're able to build their wealth almost automatically. And that doesn't include like any other additional savings plan they have or anything else. And that's one of the big misses for a lot of people in the population right now is they don't have a savings plan. They don't have a wealth building plan. And for the average consumer, we're talking about a $360,000 home. That's about the average sale price in our market. That demonstrates to me how important it is. If you want to build wealth, you've got to get into a home.
Yeah. And The security that the steady monthly payment, you know what your mortgage is going to be. Most everybody's mortgages are set for the most part, given any tax changes, things like that. But you know what your monthly payment's going to be. You don't know. Everybody has to have housing. Everybody has to have a place to live. So if you're renting, you don't know what your monthly payment's going to be from year to year or month to month, whatever your lease term is. So that can fluctuate and change. So, but with your mortgage, you know that you're going to be set for a long period of time. So you can budget, eventually put more towards your savings or other investments, or buy more real estate where you can really hedge against inflation in that way and build even more generational wealth. But you have to start somewhere, and you have to get into the housing market. And it's just really, really important. And that's why I love working with first-time home buyers too, because especially if they're like the first people in their family to buy a home, and you're getting them set up for that generational wealth, and they have kids, and you're like, wow, this is one of the best and biggest decisions that you're making. So yeah, I love this chart.
Love it. All right. So we're 4 for 4. Last one here. Home price forecasts for 2022. And notably, Zillow's not on here because they've revised theirs like 4 times. We've talked about it on the show. They list out CoreLogic, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, NAR, Ivy Zelman. There's 7 forecasts on here, and the average of the 7 is 6.7% increase in home values over 2022. So is this something you're showing people? Are you having these conversations? Talk to me about how you can utilize this, or if this will make sense to save on your phone as well.
Sure. I mean, I think that this is another great visual, another great way to demonstrate that getting into the market is locking you into something that is going to work for you. And that, while this, as we've said, has been an incredible couple years, and it's hard to predict what exactly will come into place. We've talked about, rising home prices and all these different things. I think this is a nice, steady, healthy number that is above what 5% is what had always kind of been standard over many, many years now. So this is still a little bit above that. It's showing like this is going to be working for you more than it had in previous years, but it's also not an unrealistic, unsustainable growth.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
And it also shows that home prices are not
going to drop. Yeah.
Which I hear that a lot too. I'm going to wait for the prices to come down.
I mean, if you want to wait till 2027, then good luck. So we're going to talk about that on the next segment. It's a great segue. What I love about this is that there's all these different opinions out there, right? They could have, put in the Zillow. Zillow went from like 16, then like to 22%. I'd imagine they're going to revise it again, just as an aside. It shows, hey, here's what everyone's saying, and here's the average, because none of these people are right 100% of the time. So it gives you a good cross-section of what the experts who get paid to make these predictions, because they know the market, they know the economy, they understand all this. Here's what the average is. So all this does is it gives you some insight in making a big decision, because 6.7%, like you said, Sarah, that's above the norm. And 5% would even be strong in a lot of cases, but that's kind of what a lot of people expect right now. So all it does is show, hey, here's the forecast. You're not going to lose money on this investment. Plus, you're not paying down someone else's debt, which I'm going to say over and over and over again. It instills confidence here. And it's not you saying it. It's, hey, here's these 7 really well-known sources that are telling us this. I'm just repeating it to you to help you make a good decision.
I agree.
So you guys would use all 5 of these. So David's right on here?
He's right on.
Absolutely.
All right, David, I'm sure you're listening. We're going to use all 5. We're going to roll this out to our organization here later today. So good stuff here. And I think more importantly, good data for the consumer to understand if they're thinking about making a purchase or a sale. And if you're interested in this kind of like sales tactics about sharing data with people and getting them informed, and you're thinking about getting into real estate, check out our real estate scholarship program. It's realestatescholarshipprogram.com. All the information's there. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk about what it would take for the housing market to actually crash instead of people just continuing to talk about it and speculate. This is Toole Time, Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
For the best local mortgage service and great rates on your money, look no further than Mortgage America. We've been operating in the greater Philadelphia area for 40 years with a focus on smooth, easy access to home purchasing. Whether you're a first-time buyer, upsizing or downsizing, or just refinancing, we have programs for you. We also have closing cost assistance programs and access to subsidized interest rates. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. To learn more, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000. We always have a person available to take your call with around-the-clock human service. Purchase your home with the personalized local service you find at Mortgage America.
Mortgage America is an equal housing lender. NMLS 128501.
Buying a home or already own one? We can help. I am Kevin Hamill from Alliance's Insurance Agency. If you haven't reviewed your policies in the last 3 years, now's the time. New home buyers, there are a number of ways that we can help you get to that settlement table. Call us to find out more at 610-816-0043, extension 3, or visit our website, alliancesinsurance.com. Don't forget the S, it's for savings.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit TomToole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line. I'm Tom Toole of the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line. If you're thinking of becoming a real estate agent in the greater Philly area, I have a special offer for you. Our team did $165 million of volume in 2021, making us the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania and a top 1% team nationally. Our agents love us because we offer them a successful career, a great life, and an unbeatable culture. Agents who've been with us for at least a year average 30-plus sales. Even our brand new agents average 17 to 24 sales a year. We offer proven systems and expert training. We help you set more appointments and sell more houses. Now, here's the offer. If you don't have a real estate license yet, we offer real estate scholarships so you can get one for free. Check it out at realestatescholarshipprogram.com or visit the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line at tomtoole.com. That's tomtoole.com. Get more out of your real estate career, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole. Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Time, and she's Stacy Mitchell. We've got Kevin Hamill from Alliance's Insurance in here. We'll make him talk on the last segment in case he doesn't say anything now. Gabe's behind the camera as always, and we all work, with the exception of Kevin, at the Tom Toole Sales Group, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018, and we are streaming live on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Just look up Tom Toole Sales Group. So, we talked about what agents need to be telling people, the important data for these big financial decisions that are really up to date. There was an article from Logan Madashami at Housing Wire. I hope I'm saying his name right. And I found this to be really interesting. How many times have you guys heard we're in the middle of a housing bubble over the past 24 months? How many times?
Burst. Oh, millions.
Millions?
A lot. Yeah.
I haven't heard it millions. I would say hundreds.
Yeah.
What about you, Sarah? Same thing?
Yeah, I mean, countless.
Countless. Good answer. Kevin, what about you? Are you hearing that?
Yeah, I like the countless answer.
Okay. Good stuff. So we're hearing it a lot is the point, right? Yes. And that's pretty critical. So Logan came out with an article. This dropped on the 8th, so a couple days ago on Housing Wire, and it basically was titled, "What Would It Take to Crash the Housing Market?" And the subtitle here I love. If you're saying 2008 all over again, you're already wrong, because so many people are so dead set that this is a housing bubble. So he went through this article, and we're going to give you the summary here, and broke down what it would take for a crash to actually happen. So I'm going to give a couple key points. I want to hear your comments on them. So he listed later in the article, if you go towards the bottom of it, and again, this is on Housing Wire, that the first thing that would need to happen would be inventory increases on a massive scale over 6 months of housing supply with duration, and a total inventory levels skyrocketing as we saw from 2006 to 2011. So that would be the first step there. So do we even see that happening right now? I want to just take us through the real life scenarios here. He's smarter than we are. He understands this stuff. Do we agree with this, disagree, and do we anticipate it happening in the next 6 to 18 months?
I do not anticipate that happening.
Okay.
I agree with him. I don't anticipate us having 6 months plus inventory. As we saw on one of the charts provided by David, we know the reason why there's not going to be a boom in inventory. So, yep, I don't think it's going to happen.
So tell us more about that, because in what he says here, that he's praying every day that inventory just gets back to the 2019 level, which we saw like a 3 to 4 month supply of inventory, at least in the greater Philadelphia area, versus right now we're at less than a month in the suburbs, just under 2 months in the city. So I mean, we don't see it happening because, tell us more.
Well, I think one, because of the lack of new homes that were built over the last 14 years. Number two, the number of buyers that are out there. We have all of these millennial buyers, and we have people that have been saving for, over the last couple years here. So I think even if we get a huge burst of inventory that hits the market, it's not going to sit for 6+ months. If anything, it would give some of these buyers that are out there just a chance to, jump in the pool.
Yeah, I agree. And, we have a whole influx of people coming into our area, too, from other states and New York, New Jersey, from heavily populated areas. So that hasn't changed, and it's not changing. I mean, they've built so many new apartment buildings in the area, and they're full. They're at capacity. So if you take some of those folks that might want to purchase a home, I don't see how we're going to get to 2019 levels anytime soon. I just can't see that.
So he categorizes, and I agree with both of you, he categorizes the current inventory as savagely unhealthy. It doesn't sound very good.
Yeah.
I don't agree. A lot of people are saying there's no inventory on the market. There's no stale inventory. That's what we're talking about here. Yep. If you look at annual months of supply from 1999 up until 2014, it never went any lower than 4.3 months. And during 08, 9, 10, 11, and then 12's when the market kind of shifted. We saw inventory go from like a 4.5, and it jumped all the way up to 10, 8.8, 9.4. So, and we have a negative year-over-year inventory data currently in 2022. So until that rises back up to those, and I think 2019 levels are really the goal here. Getting to 4 or 5 months, I'd be shocked right now. I just don't see it. There'd have to be a ton of homes come on the market. And going off our last segment, these people with these low interest rates locked into these homes because they refinanced 3, 4, 5 times, they're just not moving anytime soon, right, unless there's like a need for it to happen. So I agree. I don't see that happening anytime soon. And even if it did, it's going to take at least 6, 12, 18 months for that to happen. So I agree with you. I don't think one is going to happen anytime soon. So inventory increasing at a massive scale. So we're all in agreement there is what I'm hearing.
Correct.
Second ingredient, thank you, Sarah. Second ingredient, demand to drop and drop fast with no market bid for homes, allowing inventory to rise at a faster pace. And what he goes on to say is that he hasn't seen too much difference in the year-to-date trend in purchase applications. Refinance applications are down heavily because of rates. That's very clear. And after making you have to really adjust the 2020 data, because this time 2 years ago, we were locked in our houses and couldn't leave because we live in the great state of Pennsylvania. So he adjusted the data, and he can come up with only maybe a 2 to 4% impact year over year in terms of demand. That's not very much. So demand would have to drop and inventory rising. So do we see that happening?
No, I don't see demand dropping. Again, we have a whole influx of millennial buyers right now coming into the market, and that's going to span over the next 5 to 7 years, possibly, maybe longer, depending. But not all, but a lot of them have decided, especially since COVID, they've saved enough money and they want to start their lives on their own. They're getting married, they're at that age. So I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Absolutely. And I think that there's, in addition to, all of those people, I think there's even a reserve of people who, if things were a little bit different, would also want to be, out in this, out competing for a home. So I think that if things were to cool on one of these ends, there's backup people that are going to be coming out of the woodwork.
I'll go one step further. Not only do we have all millennial home buyers, we've talked about that at length, right? A lot of them still don't own properties. So that's one issue. Secondly, what he goes on to say here is that you would need to see purchase application data to drop between 20 and 30% year over year for some time. So this isn't like a one-off. This is going to take years for this to happen with no recovery like we saw at the end of 2006 toward the bottom end of the trend like 2010, 2012. So with all those people coming to the market, it's more than the baby boomers. I think my view is millennials have it the hardest right now out of any buyer because they're trying to build wealth, but they don't own something else. They can't take advantage of the appreciation there, and some of them don't know where they want to go. They're a little indecisive. Do we want to start a family now? Is this where we want to live for the next 20 years? So there's some indecisiveness there, and a lot of them are in like cities where the market in Philadelphia is very different than the suburban market right now. Stacey, I know you don't go to the city. Sarah, you do. You've seen a stark difference between the two markets, correct?
Yes.
So until that purchase application data drops, and there's more millennials than baby boomers, and they drove the economy for 3 decades. I just don't see it happening. I mean, even with rates coming up, the only thing that's doing is the people that were like on the fence of affordability, they're not buying right now. There's still a lot of people that are like, oh crap, I should have bought a home last year. And that demand is just not falling. In fact, if you look at what's going on in January so far in the purchase index, it's actually risen this year, and it's expected to rise even more in 2023. So I don't see this just flipping overnight. And that's what it's going to take. I mean, there's only 2 things he talks about here. And it's supply and demand. It's pretty easy. And for the demand to far outweigh the supply, we're going to have to see, for the supply to far outweigh the demand, we're going to have to see a lot of homes come to the market, a lot of people get out of their properties, and that's a slow process when someone's been in a home as long as they have been.
I agree.
Yeah.
So are you going to use this data to help consumers who think there's a bubble? How do you explain this? Like, you're talking to the buyer on the street you just met yesterday or the seller who you're meeting with. How are you going to explain it to them? Because we went pretty deep economically here. What's it sound like for the person that has no idea what the economy is doing right now and just needs advice on buying or selling a home?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I wouldn't necessarily hand them this whole article and say to read it. But I think, the basic bullet points of, this is not a bubble. This is why. And this is what you can expect in the coming years, and then probably incorporate some of the slides from the Keeping Current Matters into it to kind of back it up. Just, this is what, very smart people that this is their focus have been looking at, and, you're analyzing it from many, many years back and then projecting out what they expect to happen. It's impossible for this just to be a bubble.
I would ask them why they think it's a bubble and get them to explain to me where they got their information and not just say, well, my cousin told me or whatever. And then just explain to them that what happened in 2008, because that's what a lot of people go back to.
Agreed, yeah.
Is completely different than where we are now. That was, like Tom said, an institutional failure. The banks were very insolvent at that time and everything collapsed around it. So we are definitely not there. Since that time, everything's been tightened up pertaining to the lending practices and also the appraisal practices. So
great point.
That has been pretty much sealed up. It's hard to get a mortgage right now. So, but people, they're qualified and they want to buy a house. So there is the supply and demand issue. And I would go into greater detail about everything that we explained. Like Sarah said, I wouldn't give them this article to read because their eyes would glaze over. Probably.
This article's pretty in-depth. Like, this is thorough.
It is. But to have those slides, and for people that are interested in that, the quick reference, I think it would definitely put things into perspective.
Well, this is where realtors fail a lot of times. They know the answer. Like we all can articulate this, but they don't back it up with third-party data because realtors get a bad reputation. 87% are out of the business in 5 years. We know the stats because they just you should buy this house. They don't give the reasoning behind it. They don't let people make their own decisions, right? And we've all gone through the home purchase process, home buying, home selling. There's a lot of anxiety involved. You have to be empathetic to people, and when you're making this kind of decision, whether it's a $300,000 decision, a $600,000 decision, $1 million decision, whatever, you've got to give them the data to keep them well informed. It's no different than investing or like we have Kevin Hamill coming on next. Like we can talk about insurance, those sort of things. Like there's big decisions here. what Logan goes on to say, and here's how the only way this actually happens is that he says we need prices to fall this year, next year, and in 2024 to ensure that we're under 23% cumulative price growth for 2025. And unless and with inventory collapsing the way it has been, there's almost no way statistically possible for this to happen. And when you look at that, I mean, they're talking about double-digit increases this year with some people. 6 and change is the average. We just talked about that. So I don't know how, if unless you are totally foreign to the data, and like you said, their cousin tells them, or their friend that like watched one episode of CNBC or something like that, like those third-party stories, it's just impossible. So we know what it would take for a bubble to happen, and what I'm hearing, and we're going to reaffirm this here and then take a break. There's no shot this is going to happen. Can we get some verbal yeses here, ladies?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So, no bubble happening anytime soon. We know what it would take. We'll have to have the supply and demand curves almost flipped, and that's not a quick process. So, all the more reason to understand what's actually happening in the market so you can make a really good decision. So we're going to take another quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk with Kevin Hamill from Alliances Insurance. This guy knows everything about insurance. We're going to cover it all, tell you what to look out for in the home purchase process. This is Toole Time, Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
You shouldn't have to deal with all the red tape when getting your mortgage from a big or online bank. At Mortgage America, we have access to big bank money, but with the personalized and detailed service of a local bank. We are here in your community and ready to serve with fast settlements, low down payment options, and first-time homebuyer programs. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. For more information, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000.
Mortgage America's equal housing lender. NMLS 128501.
The Tom Toole Sales Group is the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania with over $165 million in volume for 2021. I'm Tom Toole, and our team has achieved that kind of success by being a great place to work with and to work for. No one knows Greater Philly better than we do. We know real estate, but more importantly, we're real people. We hire the best agents and we give them all the tools to succeed. Even our brand new agents sell 17 to 24 homes a year because our team delivers the best experience in real estate. Teams deliver a better experience than individuals, and we're a top 1% real estate team in the country. We call it AAA service. We're your advocate, ally, and advisor. Because this isn't a transaction to us. It's a relationship. If you're buying or selling a home, call the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX main line at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. That's tomtoole.com. Sell your home for more, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
Buying a home or already own one? We can help. I am Kevin Hamill from Alliances Insurance Agency. If you haven't reviewed your policies in the last 3 years, now's the time. New home buyers, there are a number of ways that we can help you get to that settlement table. Call us to find out more at 610-816-0043, extension 3, or visit our website, alliancesinsurance.com. Don't forget the S, it's for savings.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX main line. All right. We are back on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Timon. She's Stacy Mitchell. We got Gabe behind the camera. We all work with the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And we've got special guest Kevin Hamill from Alliances Insurance. Kevin, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you first? It's the website, correct?
Best way to get in touch with me is actually my cell phone.
You're going to give your cell phone out on the radio. Bold move. Okay. Yep. Let's hear it. Everyone write this down and send inappropriate messages to Kevin, please.
Dude, please do. 267-614-4234.
267-614-4234. Kevin Hamill with Alliances Insurance. So, Kevin, tell everyone a little bit about your company. You've been on before. Obviously, I think there's a lot of things we're going to unpack here in the next 15 minutes or so, but tell them about your company, how you got started. Just kind of let them know what you do and what you're all about.
So I started working with another agency in southern Chester County. And then in 2010, decided to open one myself. Ran that solely for about 5 years, and then my wife Karen came aboard, and now it's me, Karen, and we have a office manager, Bambi, who's been fantastic. We're located in Phoenixville.
You sound really excited to be on the radio, by the way. So
I do. I have more of a face for TV.
Well, we have you on video, so we can put a poll up and see what that is. So, so you've been doing insurance for a while. Obviously, we're a show about real estate. So, what's the biggest mistake people make when shopping for homeowners insurance? Because I find it to be like the afterthought. Ladies, I mean, have you ever had someone like forget to get an insurance policy a week before settlement and they just call the first person they think of?
Yes.
So this is really common. There's a lot of risk with that, I know, but talk to us about the mistakes people make when shopping for insurance, because they look at it as a checkbox instead of a protection for them.
Correct. Well, one of the biggest mistakes is just waiting until the last minute to get the policy, because you never really know what the premium could be. Some houses are really expensive to insure or uninsurable. So if there was a claim on the property that they live in now, and then another claim on the property that they're purchasing, in some cases they could be declined for insurance, and then they're going to the settlement table and they can't close the deal. So that's the biggest one if you want to go catastrophic. But I'd say the most common mistake is people just looking at the premium. What's it going to cost me? How much is it going to cost me? But with anything in life, you're going to get what you pay for. So a lot of those cheap policies that you call Geico, I know they do homeowners insurance, but they pretty much just branch it out. You're speaking with somebody that's not licensed, and they're putting together the homeowners insurance policy with bare bones. They'll say, how much are you purchasing the home for, or what is your loan? And you throw a number out there like $230,000. So they'll make the dwelling amount match the loan amount when the house should be insured for like $500,000. One of the biggest misconceptions is with insurance, homeowners insurance, is the dwelling coverage, which is coverage A and replacement cost of the home, is the same as the market value, which is absolutely not the case. Market value does not have any impact on how much the labor is going to cost, how much the materials are going to cost to rebuild the home to the way that it was standing before the fire or whatever had happened. But yeah, that's definitely the biggest one. And something I probably end up talking about, if not once a day, every other day. Because they always come back and say, I'm purchasing the house for $600,000. You have it covered for $1 million. And, well, when you're paying that much money for something, you want it to be the way it is that you purchased it, if that makes sense. I don't know if I might have missed a few words in between there.
No, I think that makes sense. That you need to be able to get it back to what it was, and like there's going to be additional expenses that go into it. And not to mention, I mean, I'm sure with everything going on with, inflation right now and supply chain issues and all of these other factors that can come into play, if you're not properly insured, you're going to wish you were.
Yep.
Right. And the only time you really truly find out if you're properly insured, if you don't listen to Kevin's and take his advice, is when something catastrophic happens and you realize, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to rebuild this unless I totally take out all my savings and everything else. And that's when you find out that you should have listened to Kevin.
Yep.
Well, think about some of these homes that exist right now, and not some of the newer homes, but some of the older properties. They're built with like stone. I mean, you can't even like buy that anymore. Like it's a major issue. A neighbor of mine went through this where he had like a $2 plumbing pipe burst. It caused $400,000 worth of damage in his house, and he's fighting with the insurance company the entire time about how he's going to get his money and how he's going to rebuild his home. And this seems like a pretty common thing for the people that cut corners when they're getting insurance. Is that an accurate story?
100%. Yep.
So how do you safeguard against that? Like what's your process like? And because I think that's what people really need to know, is that's why you need to actually talk to someone on the phone and not get on the phone with one of these big box companies.
Well, yeah, I talk to them about the insuring your home to the value, to the proper value. And then when they're going to come back that a little bit, but then I'll say I typically generate the reconstruction cost estimator and say, all right, well, you go through it with me and tell me where you see a discrepancy on what I have reported. And honestly, I'll turn away business if they are kind of thick-headed and just want to move forward, because I don't feel like dealing with the repercussions of that. I want my clients to be protected the proper way, because you don't need the biggest thing in insurance, in all of insurance, doesn't matter homeowners, you don't need insurance until you need insurance.
Agreed there, yeah.
Totally.
When I'm sure you've got a lot of case studies to back up, and different scenarios of people not properly being insured versus people being insured, and what that process looks like in the event that something happens, and how many loopholes you're going to have to jump through, or how tedious the process is going to be if you're trying to, squeeze out something that you weren't paying for to be insured by.
Correct. Yeah. And to Tom's neighbor, he might be fighting because it wasn't insured correctly. It wasn't insured to value.
I didn't get the details. I mean, I should have been like, hey, call Kevin Hamill. We can tell you everything you did wrong, which I'm sure is what he wants to hear in the middle of a disaster like that. So, but I think that's normal, though. That happens to a lot of people because they just, like you said, they call in, they get someone not licensed, they don't know what's going on. And I think there's a parallel here between mortgages and when you deal with these big box companies, they just don't get that one-on-one information that they need. And
right.
Is that fair?
Absolutely, yeah. And to Sarah's point, the homeowners insurance market, the premiums have been increasing big time, just not only because of the supply and demand that everybody's dealing with in every industry these days because of COVID, but we also had 18 weather-related disasters with over $1 billion with a B dollars in 2021.
Wow.
And that's nationally, or?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, you look at the news every morning and you see
tornado.
Yeah. So you get your localized weather, but then when they flash out to what's going on nationally, like, sometimes you're glad you're like, well, I'm glad that's not going on right here.
Right.
But, it's all over, and wildfires, tornadoes, floods, and in places where they hadn't been before, or where they're now, maybe occasionally they would, and now that's like every week, this is what's coming up. So it's.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the other thing with homeowners is, so that's the new home buyer or new homeowner's policy, if you will. People that don't look at their policies. So
Yep.
A lot of times with insurance, most of the people just pay it. They don't review the coverages that they have, right? Well, inflation, we've been talking about for the last 45 minutes, is going up, right? Well, that means that the cost of everything is going up, so you might not be covered properly with your current homeowner's policy if you've had it for 10 plus years. It might be time to look at.
That makes sense. So someone's been in their house 20 years.
They should definitely
and their home has appreciated so much in value over the past couple of years. Yeah, they need to really check
right.
that.
And again, that's not the market value,
right?
But it's
the rebuild value.
The rebuild,
though.
yes. Of the cost of materials and everything like that. And also, with everything in life, there's also been enhancements done to homeowners insurance policies. So there's coverages that are out there that exist that aren't on those other older policies, if you will. Cyber liability has been a big thing, not only in business, but now in homes too. So a lot of carriers are starting to offer cyber liability insurance.
So do you see, I guess, I don't know if this would be across the board, but for people that have been in their homes for many years, and if their rate is like barely ticking up or is staying the same, versus if you've been with the same company and every year you're maybe seeing an increase, are there a lot of companies out there that keep your price low, but over time are actually reducing your coverage in order to keep it at that price, versus places that are raising, like, oh, my rate went up again, but they're actually keeping with the same level of coverage that you would have. You can't see my hand motions on the radio here that I'm doing.
So yes, there's an inflation rider that's added to policies to keep up with the inflation.
Okay.
But again, that's something that's newer. 20 years ago, it wasn't a thing.
But if you're somebody who your rate hasn't gone up over the last several years, should you be worried that the coverage you had initially signed up for has decreased in order to keep your prices low?
If it hasn't gone up, then
there's a problem.
There's a problem for sure. But to your point, in a way, so if you do have, a lot of the policies I see are not only they're undercovered. That makes sense. But I can also save them money. Mm-hmm. It's kind of amazing, and I come out looking like roses, but it's just reviewing your policies. My tagline, as you guys know, is review before you renew.
Talk about why that's important. We got about a minute and a half left here. So why should someone be reviewing before they renew? And anything else you think people need to know about insurance that maybe are out there, either they've had a policy they haven't looked at for a while, or they're thinking about getting into a home, and what they like, just any advice you have.
Well, I think so. Review before you renew, because as we grow and we get older, things change, right? So you're going to do improvements to your home. You're going to have more people in your household, so you might want to get more of a liability. One thing that I think every homeowner's policy should have is water backup and sewer coverage, which that basically just means, if the sewer backs up, then water's it has to go somewhere, and it's going to end up in your basement. And with all the natural disasters that we're having and all the rain that we're having, I think that's something that I include on every single policy, and I make the client say, I do not want this.
Mm-hmm. That's a good advice there.
And then the other thing that I always try and talk to my clients about is an umbrella policy. Umbrella policies are pretty affordable. Anywhere from 150, they could go up to like 500 if you have multiple properties and teen drivers and things like that. But umbrella policy does not only protect your home and your car, but it also protects your retirement funds and your other assets.
All right, so umbrella policies, water backup, review before you renew. Woo. Any of this interests you, call Kevin Hamill. His direct cell phone is 267-614-4234. Text or call anytime. He doesn't care. He's with Alliances Insurance. Yeah, send a pic, whatever you like. So 267-614-4234. Kevin Hamill with Alliances Insurance. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for all the support, and thanks for helping all our clients as you've done over the past 7, 8, 9 years now. You want to follow us, you can follow Stacy on Instagram at @2Mitchco, 2MITCHCO. You can follow Sarah at Ty_TyTime, TY_TYTIME. You can follow me on Instagram at Tom Toole 3rd, Tom Toole 3RD. We're streaming live every week, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, 3 o'clock on Tuesdays. That's it for this episode of Toole Time Real Estate Radio. Talk to you next week.
Yeah.